Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Basel Pod. We have a little bit of a change up this week as Basel is out, but in his place to help talk about football is the other House Enterprise NFL analyst, ClubFootJim, James Moss. James, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. It's been a testing first 3 weeks of the NFL season, but I'm excited to get on here and talk about it, and maybe hash out some feelings I have towards the New York Jets.
Absolutely. And for those who are familiar with the pod and know Basil's loyalty to the Jets, Clubfoot's is exactly the same. Might run a little bit deeper. And I feel your pain, man. It is. I know the Cardinals are 2-1, but the struggles are abundant, and the Jets, I feel like, are kind of in the same boat. They've just had the shittier end of the stick of outcomes than we've had. But either way, we're going to do our normal scheduled lineup where we cover 3 games throughout the week. We'll highlight some special teams, big-time plays that happened throughout this week. To bring in some new stuff, we're going to highlight 6 players and 6 teams that fall into different categories, and we'll go back and forth on that. Go into our general notes and general updates about the league. And as always, my top 10 teams and the lightning round at the end of the episode. So to just kick things off, we're going to get into the game of the week. Rams at the Eagles. I think this was the most exciting game of the week. It was almost going to go into the unexpected outcome just with how crazy the game was. But James, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought the Eagles were finally getting exposed for their Jalen Hurts utilization early in this game. I thought Chris Jones was going to be watching it and having a day based off of what he said after the Eagles-Chiefs game. Hurts barely threw the ball in the first half. And finally they allowed him to play quarterback this game. And it showed, like, if you just have like a level-headed guy in the pocket, like Hurts is that guy. Like, he's calm under pressure. He could go out there and just light it up for a half. That's what they needed, and that's what he did.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And to go further on that, the Rams got up big early, 26-7 with, a few minutes into quarter 3, they got up to that score. Jalen Hurts himself, he was 4 of 8 for 17 yards, and he got strip sacked to start quarter 3. He took some really bad sacks, just did not sense pressure well at all, which has kind of been my hang up with him throughout his career. But if there's anything Jalen Hurts does well, it's mitigates everything under pressure, bounces back. He's like, wins aren't a QB stat, but he is a winner through and through, and he's proven that time and time again. And they went on a 26-point run to end the game to win 33-26, which was an insane finish. Jordan Davis had a great game, and I think he had 2 blocked field goals. It might have been just the one, and he scooped and scored, but they had 2 blocked field goals that game, which was insane just to have that feat in and of itself.
The sports bettors weren't too happy with that, but I mean, if you're a big guy with the football, like, you just got to go. You just this is your one shining moment, like a March Madness. You just got to take it. May never happen again. Just go for it.
Absolutely. And it's very rare that defensive tackles or just big men in general get to show off fast 40 times like Jordan Davis had. Mm-hmm. I think he ran like a 4.78 and he was 340 pounds, which is just stupid.
Yeah.
And he got to show that off at the end. No one was even close, which I thought was great. Was there any players that you thought stood out more than they typically have to start this season? Or is there any parts of this game where you thought, yeah, it's over for the Eagles, they're finally exposed? Or any turning point that happened, you were like, this is what they need to do more?
I wouldn't say specifically any players on the Eagles side. I'm looking at more just as the offense as a whole. It really felt like, it was being carried by the defense for the first couple weeks of the season. They weren't really – Jalen Hurts wasn't really out there to do much more than just, not make mistakes and make sure that everything went efficiently. It seemed like the switch kind of flipped finally in the second half of that game. I mean, A.J. Brown really finally got involved. He's been really, really quiet to begin the season, but he broke through. He had 6 catches, 109 yards, a touchdown in the second half. I mean, that's the typical A.J. Brown numbers you're used to. At the end of the day, I think, this is the Philly offense that, we've seen in the past. We know it could be, but at this point, like, they're just winners. Like, it doesn't have to be flashy, Detroit Lions led to the scoreboard kind of offense all the time. It's as long as it's efficient and mistake free, they're going to get by. They're going to win. They're going to continue to win football games.
Absolutely. And I think this is the game that is going to kind of put them over the edge and finally be like, hey, we know what we can be. Mm-hmm. Why are we going to reduce ourselves to just taking what the defense gives us or playing a numbers game on defense in the box against opposing quarterbacks and opposing run games, right? Like that's where this Eagles team can go from great to truly dominant. Like we saw in that Super Bowl, right? Like dominated a dynasty or, a could-be dynasty, right? And that's what I'm really looking forward to is seeing how the offense evolves and kind of hits its peak over the next couple of weeks. Because they got some good games. They got some good matchups coming up. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But, I texted my buddy Ryan. He's a huge Eagles fan. And I put it in the group chat of our fantasy football league. And it was at the end of the first half. And I was like, Jalen Hurts is a bum. Mm-hmm. I was like so convinced of my priors. All my preseason takes were on point. And then he just goes and proves me completely wrong in the second half. I mean, he was electric. I think he finished 21 of 32 for 226 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, one of which was a perfect out route to Devonta Smith. I know it's like one of those short passes, but that's one of those short passes that's tough to hit where the DB at the jump has leverage. Smith makes a great cut and Hurts just leads him perfectly away from the DB. Like, that's a tough throw at any level.
And that's great chemistry just between the wide receiver and the quarterback, showing the type of leader Jalen Hurts is when he's out there. He just clicks so well with his pieces on offense.
For sure. And I think that's the biggest point is even when Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, and other receivers in the passing attack are not getting involved, at any point they can flick the switch and just take over, which is just great for them. Any last thoughts for the Rams Eagles?
What are tell me what you think about what's going on with the Tush Push here? What's happened? What's Jordan Laube's take?
My take is the Tush Push is a football play. Like it is the epitome of football. Like I have 11 dudes. I'm going to line up and just bury it down your throat. And for those reasons, it should stay in the game. Like it's not an attractive play. It's a quote unquote boring play unless you're an Eagles fan or you just like QB sneaks a lot, right? Like I can appreciate people's want to get it out of the league because it's not aesthetically pleasing. Mm-hmm. It's not a flashy football play, but the football player in me loves it. Mm-hmm. With that said, they need to absolutely crack down on the false starts that are happening. And it's been dating back since they started the Tush Push. The center, the football has a neutral zone area where you have to be, it's a judgment call, but really it's a half yard for the offense and a half yard for the defense to give a full yard of space of the football radius, essentially. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles players are on all fours, and the center's helmet is directly over the football to get that forward lean. And your helmet, if you're another offensive lineman, is supposed to be breaking the center's hip, and all of them, it's breaking his shoulder pad level. So they're getting a massive lineup advantage. Yeah. Half the time they're false starting, which is like, look, if the NFL is not going to call it, I would coach it the same way. Yeah, jump early. There's so many bodies in a short area, no one's going to make that call. Like, and they finally did. I think they did call one false start, but there was another one that happened on a crucial 4th down, and the Eagles got a first down and then scored 2 plays later, I believe. That wasn't called, and that's just one of those things where it's like, if officiating was perfect, that play would not have half the success that it does, and then maybe they wouldn't run it as much, and we're not having this conversation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's very similar to my take. Like I think if it's being officiated correctly, if it's not breaking any rules, like I think why not go for it. But when it's this blatantly obvious sometimes that they're getting an advantage, how they're lining up next to the center over the ball. Like we got to crack down on that. I'm totally for it if it's a clean, good football play. But if it's blatantly breaking an offsides rule, then they got to be tougher on it.
Yeah, for sure. And with being tougher on it, someone that is, or a team that's not being tough at all is the Dallas Cowboys, as they were embarrassed by the Chicago Bears. Not embarrassed, but that game was much more of a blowout than the final score indicated. But the Bears and Cowboys game was another good one. I think that's where we learned the most from both teams, essentially. So tell me a little bit about what you saw from the Bears this weekend, or what you saw from the Cowboys, or both, and what you liked or didn't like about each team.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to see, Ben Johnson's vision kind of, we're starting to see it come to life here with the Bears. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw Caleb Williams with just like, he looked so free and having fun out there, and like it looked like his USC Oklahoma days. That flea flicker was like such a fun play. I don't know. This is like, it's different from any of the Bears teams I've ever seen really growing up. I mean, usually they're one of those hard-nosed defensive football teams. And now with this exciting offense, it's like, it's fun, man. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm excited. Caleb still got some accuracy issues. He had 6 off-target throws. But you just got to hope that if he continues to play well, that ends up fixing itself. And the Cowboys are just lost on defense. They can't do a thing. They have no secondary. They're missing a key position at pass rush. I don't know what happened to that. I don't know. I think they're going to be, every game's going to be a 40-30 shootout.
Before we get into the Cowboys defense, that flea flicker to Caleb, the ball, there was a tweet, like obviously it's not satire, but exaggeration.
Yeah.
But someone said the flick back to Caleb hung longer in the air than his 60-yard bomb of a throw. And I don't think there might be one or two other quarterbacks in the league who can take one small hitch and fling it the way Caleb did. I mean, he threw that on a rope, and he didn't even get a chance to step into it. He just had to torque his body and deliver the ball perfectly to Rome. Yeah. I mean, it was
like perfectly in transfer. It was like watching a baseball player catch a cutoff and then fire it to home. Like it was beautiful.
That's a great analogy. And Rome, I know he's not in our notes, but Rome Odunze has been fantastic through the first 3 weeks and has really shown why he was a top 10 pick. Yeah. I could talk till I'm blue in the face about Shane Waldron and how he's a football terrorist. And and I want to ask you, do you know where Shane Waldron is right now in the NFL?
Oh God, isn't he like a wide receivers coach or something?
For which team?
Oh God, don't do this to me.
What wide receiver was awesome last year and is struggling heavily to start this year?
Oh God. Marvin Harrison, Cardinals?
You know what? I would have put it past you.
But, yeah.
That's another conversation entirely. But he's the pass game coordinator for the Jaguars this year.
Yeah, Brian Thomas is really.
Yep. Yeah, he's been a dud this year, and I think a lot of it's mental. A lot of it is could be Shane, but
yeah, no, Shane, you're telling me someone who has Brian Thomas in 2 fantasy leagues.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if this is any indication, Rome Odunze should be a 1st or 2nd round pick in fantasy next year.
Yeah,
seeing how Jackson Smith and Jigba has taken off, which he's someone we'll talk about later as well. Mm-hmm. But getting back to Bears Cowboys, I mean, to your point, like Caleb Williams, yeah, he played well. The accuracy is still kind of an issue, especially for me. But I think he's mitigating pressure much better than he did last year. He's not taking stupid sacks. Mm-hmm. Ben Johnson's offense finally got the shine against a team that didn't play Ben Johnson or didn't coach with Ben Johnson. I mean, week 1, he plays the Vikings. Brian Flores is very familiar with the system. Mm-hmm. Last week, he goes against Dan Campbell and the Lions, who are obviously very familiar with the system. And then he goes against Cowboys, who defensively are just shitting the bed in every direction. They have the second highest EPA per play allowed in the entire NFL. And I want to say the only team ahead of that is the Dolphins, of course, because the Dolphins defense is dog water. But with the defense playing as bad as it is, CeeDee Lamb going to be out the next 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to take a lot for the Cowboys to compete. Mm-hmm. In general, not even in their own division, just in general. I mean, there's a good chance they end up with the top 10 pick in this upcoming draft, if not a top 8, depending on how these next 4 to 6 weeks go, because they do not have They don't have easy matchups coming up on their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They might have one or two, but missing CD, George Pickens is, who he is. He makes big plays, and then he had a couple of drops, and one of them led to a pick. That's just
that's the George Pickens show. Like
exactly. And it's like when George Pickens is on, he's one of the best receivers in the league, but that's maybe 5% of the time he's on.
Yeah.
It's so you can't be that good if you're only on 5% of the time.
It's a high risk, high reward guy that you're comfortable with as your number two. If he's taken in as your number one for 4 to 6 weeks, you're in for a interesting time.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about it, we know he's going to go off for 130 this week. Yeah, because that's just how it goes.
130 yards, 2 punches.
So with that, who is someone on the Cowboys you think can help step up besides George Pickens? Because obviously he has to, right? And if he doesn't, someone else is going to have to foot the bill, right? Who do you think is someone that the Cowboys can rely on over these next 4 to 6 weeks, assuming that they didn't put CD on IR because they think he might be able to come back earlier, but typically with high ankle sprains, it's 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So who do you think will be able to step up while he's out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be no choice but Dak. I mean, I think a lot of pressure falls on his shoulders. We've seen it in he's a good quarterback. Like he's going to go out, he's going to put up numbers, he's going to put up yards, he's going to put up touchdowns. I remember that one year, I forget how long ago it was now, but he was on pace for like 6,000 yards in the season. Like he can go out there and put up numbers, but is he going to be able to work with, again, a George Pickens who is only focused like 5% of the time, like a depleted receiving core, a run game that really hasn't been to its fullest potential since Ezekiel Elliott was not the last time he was there, but the last time he was there. How is he going to navigate these struggles? Like in my experience with the Cowboys, they've always been loaded with weapons, and now it's like, okay, how does Dak react to this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Dak's going to have to step up in a way not that we haven't seen, but it's been a while since he's been asked to carry this team, right? And with the supporting cast the way it is, obviously with CD out, George Pickens being who he is, Kevontae Turpin kind of not so much a gadget guy anymore. He's kind of evolved into a true wide receiver 3 who can succeed out of the slot, but now he's going to be asked to step up as a wide receiver 2, or they might insert Jalen Tolbert or Ryan Flournoy. There's a lot of question marks about how much more Dak can do than what he's done in the past and what he's currently doing, right? But if there's anyone that can do it, I think I agree with you. I think it is Dak. He's a good quarterback. A lot of people give him shit because of some, errant interceptions he threw early in his career, and they just put him, in this basket of mediocre quarterback when he's not. He's a baller. We've talked about that on the show constantly over the past couple of years. But if there's anyone that can do it, I think it's Dak.
Yeah, totally agree.
Sweet. And then transitioning into the Browns versus Packers game as the game with the most unexpected outcome. I mean, the Browns 0-2, bottom feeder to the league, just got blown out by the Ravens, had a brutal week 1 loss to the Bengals where they completely shut down their offense but couldn't generate any offense of their own. And then the Packers, who came out on fire the first 2 weeks, blew out the Lions, pretty much blew out the Commanders, and were looking to have another third straight blowout against the Browns. And obviously the tables flipped, right? So talk to me a little bit about what you saw in this game where the Browns got the edge on the Packers and were able to take it to victory.
Well, I think the Browns defense is just, you might even call it elite. I think it's really set up, to be really successful this season. And honestly, I'm looking right at the number 5 overall pick, that anchor right in the middle, Mason Graham. His stats aren't. He's not lighting up the stat sheet. He has half a sack. He's got 11 tackles. He's got a PFF grade of 64.2. So he's not. He's certainly not lighting it up. But some of those non-measurables, like how he does in the run game, how he stuffs the gap, like he is a presence there that's felt every time he's out in the field. I think he's really, he's blossoming into, I think, he's going to be a great defensive tackle in the league going forward. and the Packers just ran into a defense that might be better than theirs. I don't know. Could be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And with that point, Mason Graham, overall through his first 2 games did not play great. But if we look at his pass rush win rate, he's at a 16.7 in week 3, which is pretty damn good for a defensive tackle. Typically elite numbers we see are, 25%, great numbers around 20, but that's typically for edge rushers. To win 16.7 as a rookie defensive tackle in your 3rd game against the Packers offensive line, there are some issues there, but they're still NFL offensive linemen, and they're better than I would say half the league. That's pretty solid, and it helps having, you have Myles Garrett on one side. Then you have Malik Collins helping out on the interior as well. They have a bunch of guys that they can rely on for this pass rush, but I think Mason Graham's only going to get better, right? And to your point, I think he's going to be a stud on this defense. I wasn't as high on him as a few other D tackles in this class, but when he's on and he uses his moves the way he knows how, like he is a great pass rusher.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioning during our draft talk, he was a really safe pick, a very high floor guy. Like he was going to come in and make an impact. But I to your point, I think some of those those non-measurable numbers, those non-stat sheet numbers that he's producing, especially in week 3, he's probably overperforming to what we initially thought he would be.
And with the return that the Browns got on that trade as well, I think that's more than worth what they're getting out of Mason Graham just from the draft return alone. And now he's starting to turn it up and tune it up a little bit. Like this is where we're going to start to see him shine as the season goes along. So I think that's a great point to that. And adding back to kind of the point I was talking about, the Packers offensive line is just in shambles pass protecting wise, and they haven't had to pass a lot. So they've been able to mask a little bit of the issues they've had, especially on the interior. Jordan Love's done a really good job of getting out of pressure and getting the ball downfield, which we talked about that after the week 1 show. He's kind of struggled with that through his first 2 years as a starter, but every starting lineman on the Packers team has a sub 60 pass block grade per PFF. And I know PFF grades aren't everything, but one thing they do really well with, in my opinion, is offensive line grades. And if you want to take anything home to the bank with PFF, that's not just their advanced stats and their advanced analytics. The grades for the offensive line are their bread and butter. They're very good at that, in my opinion. And of their 5 starting offensive linemen, 3 of them have a sub 50 pass block grade. That's very below average. That's bad. 60 is average, 50 is below average. To be below average is bad. It's not a great sign when your first round pick who you drafted as an offensive tackle, you move him into guard, where we see tackles transition to guard, end up playing a little bit better. Like obviously we saw that with Mekhi Becton, Daniel Folale. Besides this year and the end of last year, he seemed like he made the transition pretty well. There's been a few other guys to make the switch from tackle to guard that I'm probably missing. But he's someone that I thought could have made the jump moving into guard. I had him graded higher as a guard when I scouted him last year, but he's been bad, especially in pass pro. So I think if they can kind of reel him back in and get him solidified with his footwork, which was my biggest hang up with him in the draft process, I think that will help the offense be a little better, especially when you play a tough defense like the Browns. But are there any other spots on the offense you think could be playing better than what they currently are besides the offensive line?
Yeah. To your point about tackles who move into guard, I think Skoronski was another one of those.
Oh, guys, perfect. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's short arm Skoronski.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I want to see Matthew Golden get a little more involved. Finally, the Packers take a first round receiver, and he's been pretty much a no-show. I don't know where that change comes from. With the situation that Jordan Love was in last week, he wasn't really going to find anybody. Being sacked 5 times is tough on any quarterback, and to me, Jordan Love is a guy who can make mistakes. So if you're not giving him enough time, he's going to end up making those mistakes. Like that's how I think he is. He's that Packers breed of quarterback who he's got a little Brett Favre to him. He'll just kind of throw it sometimes. And, so how do they, with the bad offensive line, how are they going to create time and opportunities for Matthew Golden to get involved?
Yeah, and I think, to that point, right, like we talk about pressure. He got sacked 5 times. He was pressured 14 times last week. And he had a pressure to sack rate of 35.7, which was the second highest below just below Lamar Jackson, who led the league this week. I think getting someone like Matt Golden involved, because you see his 40 speed and you're like, oh, well, he can stretch the field vertically. Like, he's someone who plays a little bit slower than his 40 speed. So I think they're just trying to get him to stretch the field, and not really use him underneath the best way, which is going to help mitigate that pressure like you and I were talking about. But, besides that, the underthrown touchdown ball to him that got swatted down in Commanders week 2, we haven't really seen him be utilized in a way where he just can be a one-cut receiver. It seems like everything is a deep ball or everything else is just an intermediate route where he's kind of the second or third read in play, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see him become the first read. And it's not that he can't do it. I just don't know if Matt LaFleur trusts him to do it yet. And I think that's.
And, there's guys that have been in the offense for longer, like Wicks. And, the tight ends are insane. I mean, Tucker Kraft is really coming into his own this year. So maybe it's just, trusting him the offense, and that could be something that rectifies itself. But I don't know. I feel like you spend a big pick on this guy to make an impact. So let him make an impact.
Yeah, and I think Emeka Egbuka was off the board before Matt Golden, right? Or is Matt Golden the first receiver off the board?
Was it Matt Golden?
Let me look.
Yeah,
we can pull up the draft tracker real quick. Let's see. Oh, no, Tatori McMillan was the first one off the board, T-Mac. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, yep. 8th.
And then Emeka went, and then Matt Golden. So either way, like the top 3 receivers were already gone at that point. But I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to see from him moving forward is when the ball is in his hands, be a playmaker like we've seen other great Packers receivers have done in the past. Like Devontae Adams is one of those guys, right? Like early on had some issues with separation, had some issues with the long speed. Like, I'm not saying Matt Golden has those same issues, but he does have other issues that I saw throughout his draft process, where I had someone like Emeka graded higher. Emeka, you could tell from day one was going to be a stud when you put on the tape, right? Matt Golden, there were a couple things with concentration catches, route pacing, things like that he kind of struggled with, and it seems like that has continued throughout his rookie season. Which has kind of hindered him a little bit in terms of what his utilization is in this offense. But if there's anyone that can overcome it and help him overcome it, I think Matt LaFleur will get him more involved, especially with some of the injuries in this wide receiver room, and especially to Tucker Kraft himself, right? So, jury's out for a little bit, but I think we're going to see some really good flashes from him in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope so. I was a big fan of his coming out of college, so
for sure. Let's get into some special teams galore. I'm sure you have a few that you want to point out that are near and true to you. So if you want to kick this off, feel free to go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Will McDonald, that was electric. That was fun. I thought my friend and I were exchanging texts saying like, oh, we're witnessing another classic Jets game. It was 20-6 at that time. He texted me. Then a little bit of time goes by, and I'm like, wait, this actually might be like a classic Jets game, like one that we'll remember for a long, long time. That Will McDonald block in return was incredible. To see Aaron Glenn dancing a little bit on the sideline too, that was fun. I'm in on Aaron Glenn as of now. We can get more into that later, but I'm in. That was fun, and again, like we haven't gotten enough to roll, bounce, kick our way these first 3 weeks. We're very close to being a 2-1 team, but we're 0-3, and that's how football goes, unfortunately. But that was a lot of fun. That special teams play, the field goal block, loved it.
Have you seen the clip? Obviously, we all saw Aaron Glenn dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone put September over it, the audio. Yep. I thought that was perfect. And then they're putting the whole Earth, Wind, Fire album over it, and it's like perfectly matching with every song.
It's like he had it in his head, like he was dancing to it.
Because it was the 21st of September.
So it was, which is even better.
On point.
Yeah.
So Will McDonald, obviously great play. He's a great player. Very good pass rusher, and finally coming into his own. But obviously the Bucs responded with soul-crushing 36-yard field goal to win the game. I mean, McLaughlin was on fire the entire game. I think he hit 5 field goals. It might have been 4. But he definitely made some noise, which is, he struggled early in his career. Last year, he started to kick a little bit better. And I think this was just, the peak, 4 field goal game, including a game winner after a huge momentum shifting play. I thought that was great. Obviously, we talked about the Eagles, 2 blocked field goals in that game, and Jordan Davis, stampeding down the field was great to see.
Yeah.
This one hurt for me. 49ers hitting a 35-yard game-winning field goal. Zay Jones dropped a perfectly placed third down ball, slightly less than perfectly placed third down ball to close out the game.
Yeah.
49ers get the ball back. Mac Jones somehow became a game winner for the second week in a row. And finally, CMC in the screen game gets a huge chunk gain. Cardinals just, I was personally hurt because I had a parlay. Bears, Cardinals, and Chargers money line. I was so close to hitting, and that stung a little more than normal, but a totally winnable game for the Cardinals in the offense. Once again, just shitting the bed. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Browns game we obviously talked about. They blocked a field goal and then hit a 55-yard game winner as time expires to beat the Packers 13-10. Chargers 43-yard game-winning field goal to remain undefeated against the Broncos.
Dicker the kicker.
Yes, sir. Dicker the kicker. Gotta love it. Seahawks had 2 big special teams plays. Torrey Horton, who I was super high on in this draft and have highlighted multiple times on this podcast, 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. And the next time the punt unit went out there, they blocked the punt, and then they scored, I think, like 2 or 3 plays later. So 14-point swing just from special teams alone in that Saints blowout was awesome. And then the Commanders, this one hurt as well because it was against the Raiders. But Jalen Lane, rookie, 90-yard punt return touchdown. They just smoked the Raiders and dominated with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. So if that says anything about where the Raiders are at, I think that says it right there.
More opportunities for Dylan, right?
Absolutely. Hey, look, he had his chances. The blocking could have been much better. I was going to say a little bit better, but there was he got his first carry or second carry of the game. It was on a 3rd and 1. It was in the 4th quarter, and they run. I think it was inside zone to the right, and everything was blocked relatively well. The right guard was losing his block, but Dylan just needed 2 more steps, and he would have had the first down. Trey Tucker's coming in on a seal-off block on the safety, Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves shoots it. Trey Tucker backs away from it, and he throws his shoulder pad right into Dylan's thigh and cut him at the thigh boards. It was perfect, like DB form tackle. So the people who are saying Ashton Genty's not doing well, just go watch the Raiders' offensive line and tell me that Ashton Genty was not worth the 6th-round pick because the offensive line, if it was slightly below average, he would be playing much better. The Raiders might have the worst offensive line in the league. It's been
worse than the Packers, you'd say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely worse than the Packers. Yeah, for sure. So with that, little bit of a team overview. We each have three teams each that we want to talk about and we want to note through the first 3 weeks. Kind of like how we do our game recaps each week. We have, top teams, and then we have teams that are exceeding expectations. And then we have teams that we might be hitting the panic button on 3 weeks into the season, which we don't want to do, but it might be time to, depending on some of these teams. Clubfoot, why don't you get us started with the top dog that you have?
Yeah, my top dog for this NFL Week 3 is I almost said San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers. I wish they were still in San Diego. I mean, they've been a pleasure to watch so far this year. I mean, Justin Herbert really is. I think there was a lot of Justin Herbert hype early in his career, and then people were starting to back off it, and now it's all the way back. Like, I mean, he's a different guy than who he's been the past few years. He's just, I don't know, he's confident out there. His arm ability, his clutch throws, I don't know. He's just Jim Harbaugh is like, fix this guy. He is his guy. And I think that they finally found their bell cow. I've been fighting forever for the Chargers to get a bell cow. I was very high on them. I really wanted them to get Bijan a few drafts ago. Obviously, he didn't fall that far. He didn't fall outside of the top 10. I don't think any of us really had him there. And, of course, the week I bench Omari Hampton, he shows that he's going to be a really good running back in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's just how it goes. I don't know. It's just, sometimes the world is rigged against you. But, yeah, I'm just incredibly happy to see this team putting everything together, seeing Jim Harbaugh's vision, seeing Justin Herbert being this elite guy that we always know he'd be. And even the defense has been good. I mean, Derwin James is a stud. He might be front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. Like he's been incredible.
He has been. That's a really good take because I feel like Derwin over the past couple of years, not that he's fallen off, but I think there are other safeties people have talked about as top safeties. Kyle Hamilton, Antoine Winfield, Jesse Bates.
I would certainly say he plateaued.
Yeah, definitely. Plateaued's a great word for it. And I think now we're starting to see, that rookie year, second year high level play that we saw from him. Yeah. Whatever one of those years he didn't get hurt. Maybe it was his third year he popped off when he came back from injury, but he's now that savvy vet with the play of an all-pro guy through the first 3 weeks. He's been awesome. And I always appreciate Justin Herbert support. So great call out there. For me, I'm going to go the Packers, even though they did lose this past week. I think from what I talked about earlier, the first 2 weeks they dominated. This pass rush has been incredible. In a previous podcast, we talked about the Cheetah package with Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary, and Micah Parsons. When all three of them are on the field together, this defense is just they're a bunch of lions hunting gazelles, and they are just they come alive when those three are on the field together. And offensively, Josh Jacobs is a very solid running back, very high-end guy. You know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Jordan Love has taken those next steps as a passer. And if this offensive line can hold up a little bit more than they did against a really good defense that the Browns have, I think this Packers team can win the NFC North and make a deep playoff run. I mean, before last week, people were like, yeah, this team is contenders. And, it's one loss, so I think people aren't backing off that take. But I think if they drop one or two more games, people might start to back off a little bit more. I wouldn't. I would keep, foot on the gas. I would keep hyping this team up because they're gonna make it happen. I mean, they were top 10 in a lot of key categories last year, and they weren't as good on offense and defense as they were last year. In terms of EPA, points allowed, points scored, points per drive on each of those. Like, they were awesome last year in those metrics, even if the record didn't show it. And now they're evolving. And that's kind of the key part that I think a lot of people miss in the NFL is how teams evolve season over season and within a season. And the Packers are taking that next step to evolutionize their offense and defense. So,
yeah.
So those are teams we obviously think are, at the top in each conference. Talk to me, who's a team that you think is exceeding expectations?
Yeah, I think this isn't really a hot take. I think a lot of people probably share this with me. The Colts being 3-0 is insane. I mean, you look at sort of the noise around them during the preseason, this QB battle between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. It's like, oh God, like this is like one of the worst QB battles ever. And then Daniel Jones comes in after his cup of coffee with Kevin O'Connell, and he's playing to a level he's never played at before. I mean, they're 3-0. He's efficient. He's limiting his mistakes. They've scored more points through 3 games than the Colts ever have than with Peyton Manning. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's finally clicking for Shane Steichen. I know he was probably up there on people's lists of guys on the hot seat to begin this year. It's looking good so far. I mean, it's a good balanced offense. Like, Jonathan Taylor looks like himself when he's out there. And yeah, this is just, nobody expected the Colts to be putting up almost 40 points a game through 3 games this year.
I think my favorite Daniel Jones stat this year is through the first 3 games of quarterbacks with over 90 dropbacks. He is the 3rd lowest turnover-worthy play rate. He has 1 turnover-worthy play this year, by the way. He has 4 big-time throws, which is pretty good. A 4.3 big-time throw rate is really solid. Obviously, he's not turned the ball over. And then the Colts went, I think it was 10 quarters without punting to start the season. That's the most amount of quarters a team has ever gone without punting the football. Like, every drive has been a scoring drive until that point. Like, that's, for the folks watching on YouTube or wherever you watch this podcast, if you're not listening to it, I do have Danny Dimes Denier as my tag. It's not that I'm denying his growth. It's, I don't know how long he can sustain it. But knowing this podcast, once we shit on someone, they turn the corner eventually, right? So it's seeing him do what he's doing. But he's never played the way he has before. He's performing well under pressure. He's not double clutching the ball before he throws. He's anticipating routes well. Like, this is a Daniel Jones we've never seen. Like, it's even that really good year he had in 2022. Like, we have not seen him play to this level ever. So it's really cool to see him kind of turning this around.
Even in that 2022 year, it didn't feel like he wasn't going out there and lighting the stat sheet up. He was going out there and just being efficient, not making mistakes. Like, this is Daniel Jones is making highlights. It's that's other than that one run against who was it where he tripped and fell?
The Eagles.
But he hit like 23 miles an hour or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, outside of that and that one rushing touchdown against the Buccaneers his rookie year, I can't think of the Daniel Jones highlight.
A Daniel Jones highlight, or how did you say? You said Daniel Jones is making highlights. That's a sentence I thought would never be uttered. No, like, that's sick.
I was expecting one of those, like a player. You know how Hunter Renfrow, like, his LinkedIn went viral?
Yes,
I was expecting that. In the very near future for Daniel Jones, but he's saved himself.
I hope it continues for him, and I hope that Anthony Richardson does get another shot elsewhere. There's going to be a couple QB needy teams coming in. This draft class looks pretty solid right now, and a deep QB draft class in terms of floor. Ceiling is kind of debatable for a lot of these guys, so hopefully, Anthony Richardson, I think, has a higher ceiling than any of the quarterbacks coming out in this class. So I would like to see a team take a shot on him if Daniel Jones is going to be the answer for, the long-term future.
It's tough to give up on a 23-year-old quarterback. I mean, Richardson will be younger than some of the quarterbacks being drafted next year.
Yes.
Which is, it's just insane.
I'm pretty sure he's younger than Garrett Nussmeier, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I believe Garrett Nussmeier is 24.
Age. He's 23. He'll be 24. So February 7th, 2002. Richardson age. And Anthony Richardson is May 22nd, 2002. So he's younger than Garrett Nussmeier. That's a great point. It's, I don't want to see a team give up on him, but if Daniel Jones is giving you this level of play and he seems like that perfect of a fit for the offense. Yeah. It's a quarterback. It's a young quarterback with high traits. You might be able to maybe get a 4th rounder in a trade. Like that might be worth it to the Colts.
What did the Patriots get for Joe Milton?
They got a 5th rounder, I think.
Yeah, I think higher than where he was drafted.
Yeah, he was a 6th round guy, and they got a 5th rounder for him.
Yeah,
for one game, that's insane return.
Yeah, and a backflip.
And a backflip. Speaking of backflips, the 49ers fans have to be doing backflips with how this is the worst injury luck I think they've had, and I think all of the black magic they're using to keep Christian McCaffrey together is spilling over to everyone else on this team. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk's injury, George Kittle, Isaac Guerrero went down with an injury. They had another backup who went down, which caused a trade for Brian Robinson.
Yep.
Jordan James, the rookie, was the other one. Nick Bosa just tore his ACL, so he's going to be
Awful.
down. It's just horrible. He's going to be down for, obviously the season, but
I believe that's the second tear on
yeah.
the ACL for him.
Yeah, which is like one ACL tear. Yeah, guys can bounce back from it. Nick Bosa's been great since bouncing back from his first one.
Yeah.
It's very tough to come back from a second. Not many guys can do it. If anyone can, probably is Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
But, the 49ers riddled with injury. Oh, and Brock Purdy, obviously, have to mention him.
Yeah.
He's been, he played well until his injury. I thought he played well last year, given, the other injuries they had last year. But, missing your starting quarterback, and then Mac Jones comes in, and people will start saying, well, if Mac Jones can run this offense, anyone can run this offense. Like, yeah, but Mac Jones is asking what Kyle Shanahan's doing. He's not elevating like Brock Purdy does, right?
Yeah.
But with that, Mac Jones, great. Happy he's doing well in this offense. But to go 3-0 with a really tough schedule, they played the Seahawks week 1. I want to say, who they play week 2? Let me pull that up real quick. I'm actually going to type that in. We have the internet. I might as well use it. 49ers schedule. They played the Seahawks, then the Saints. So that was a much closer battle than people thought it was going to be. I actually thought the Saints were going to win that one just because of all the injuries the 49ers had. And then they beat the Cardinals, who are, in my opinion, hapless, and the offense is dog shit. But regardless, you're 3-0. Like, and you have all these injuries. Imagine if they were fully healthy. Like, imagine if they had Ayuk. Like, Ricky Pearsall's 3rd in receiving yards in the NFL, or 4th in receiving yards in the NFL, but he's not he made an awesome contested catch against the Cardinals, but he's not doing anything special. He's just fitting within the system. He's not elevating it. And they're still 3-0. Like, it's once they get everyone back and healthy, this is a team that is going to be scary in the back half of the season, especially if Ayuk can get back to his 2023 efficiency, where he had over 3 yards per route run, which was just ridiculous. He had more yards than Jamar Chase and ran, I want to say, 100 less routes than Jamar Chase did that year. And I know Jamar Chase was hurt a little bit in 2023, but with that, that's a top 3 or top 2 receiver in the league. Some would say he's the best. I still defer to Justin Jefferson as the best.
I still give the nod to JJ.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's when Ayuk comes back, if he could be healthy, and Juwan Jennings can be healthy, and George Kittle comes back healthy, and the offensive line maybe plays a little bit better. Dominic Pooney, I think, is out too. He was a gem for them at guard in the draft last year. They got a lot of glaring holes on the roster with guys out because they just don't really have great depth. But when they're all there, this is a really, really good team. And I'm excited to see what they can do going forward for the rest of the season. On the other hand, we have teams that it might be time to hit the panic button.
Some stinkers. Yeah,
some real stinkers. Talk to me about your Jets.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about the Jets. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. We're how do I put this? I don't think we have the privilege to have a panic button because of expectations and the situation we're kind of in. I heard a lot of people already calling for Aaron Glenn to be fired after the Buffalo Bills loss, which, to be fair, if they came out again in week 3 and looked as miserable and unprepared and uninspired as they did against the Bills, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be calling for him to be fired, but I wouldn't be happy. It's so close sometimes and yet so far. The first game of the season was just an experience. I loved it. I loved every second of it besides Xavier Gibson. Thank God he's gone. That was literally the best game of Justin Fields' career, to immediately turn around and have the literal worst game of Justin Fields' career, to come out in the first half against the Buccaneers and look like dog shit and then flip it around. It's been wild. I don't know. I didn't know what my expectations were for this team going into the year. I am at least happy that I am most of the time on the edge of my seat with the product they have on the field. It's a lot, man. I don't know. It's disappointing, how the Steelers game ended and how the Buccaneers game ended. Again, we're a few lucky situations away from being 2-1, but we're not. We're 0-3.
Yep.
And did I expect that? Kind of. I was kind of hoping to beat the Bills because I want Chris to be sad. But yeah, it's somehow a season where your bar is on the floor can still give you some disappointment. And that's kind of how I feel sometimes with this team so far this year.
Yeah, it's been, I don't want to say tough because there have been exciting moments, like a really great game against the Steelers. Brandon Stevens makes a pick, which I think they found his replacement in the Jarvis Brownlee trade.
I hope so.
I think he's a good young corner, and I think is better than Brandon Stevens is right now. But a drop pick away, and then, a great comeback, and just stopping Emeka Egbuka from being a stud on 2 passes on that last drive. I mean, they're that close, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet on them. But to your point, it's 0-3. Justin Fields has been up and down to start the season and obviously missed this past game. But he should be back for week 4, if I'm not mistaken, especially a Monday night game. He should be back. And it's against the Dolphins. It's
another train wreck.
Yeah. I think a bigger train wreck, if I'm being perfectly honest. We're looking at the Jets who are rebuilding and have a new culture. The Dolphins are ripping at the seam. They had a competitive game against the Bills, but it's still, it's the Dolphins. And it's Mike McDaniel being uninspired as a head coach and a locker room being
miserable
divided.
out there.
Oh my God.
Miserable. I'm tired of looking at him, McGenius.
I know it sucks because the offensive game plan is still there. He's still scheming shit up really well, especially in the run game, but it's just no one wants to play for him and no one wants to play for each other. They're just, and you can tell we talk about attitude and body language and everything. And when we talk about individual players, normally it doesn't mean anything. When we talk about a collective team, that's what it means a lot. And when a team is calling a players only meeting after the first game, that's when it's this is when it's starting to turn to shit. So, I have high hopes for the Jets still. I think they'll turn the tide as long as Fields is healthy. And even if he's not, Tyrod Taylor is a very serviceable backup. I'm excited to see what they can do.
I will say I have big hopes for Tanner Engstrand. I've never seen a Jets community so collectively in on a guy.
Yeah.
We're happy with him. I was big on Mike LaFleur. It was kind of a little more divided in the Jets community on him. I was a big fan of his. I was really sad to see him go. We got to keep this guy. I like Tanner Engstrand a lot.
Yeah, he's great. For me, the panic button is the Broncos. And defensively, Nick Bonito is really good for them. Pat Surtain is obviously who he is. He's awesome. Zach Allen broke out last year. I mean, they have a lot of Jonathan Cooper is another guy, really good edge rusher. They have a lot of really good pieces on this defense.
Riley
Moss, another white corner that a lot of people don't talk about for whatever reason. Cooper DeJean before Cooper DeJean, but not that good. But
not that good, but still, give him his flowers at least.
Yeah, exactly. He represents. Yep. He's a dog. But the offense is not what I thought it was going to be. I know Evan Ingram missed last week with an injury, but I thought he was going to be a lot more involved. I think he's only played 30% of the snaps or 30% of the passing snaps, which is just what? He's your big free agent acquisition and the guy you're Sean Payton likes having these joker role players who he can put wherever they want, and the defense has to completely change based on where he is. To only be out there for a third of the receiving snaps that doesn't make sense to me. People had high hopes for RJ Harvey. They're not really using him, but he's a rookie and he was, a second round draft pick. Obviously, they're not going to lean on him as much until later in the season. I mean, Bucky Irving was great, and he wasn't leaned on as the guy until, the last 5 weeks of the season.
Right.
So
and now he's completely changed the offense. Now that he's the reliable guy.
Yeah, oh my God, I love him. We could have a whole nother podcast about Bucky Irving alone. But I think the biggest hang-up for this offense has been Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I mean, he's PFF. He's one of the lowest graded quarterbacks through the first 3 weeks. EPA per dropback, he's one of the lowest in the NFL. there were issues I had with Bo Nix's game coming out of college, and even though he had a good rookie year, there were some glaring issues in terms of taking too many sacks and turning too many pressures into sacks. Besides the highlight throws, his deep ball was not that good last year. Very much the quick hitters is what he was good at over the middle of the field. Doesn't really have great arm strength to hit it to the outside, so teams have started to load up the middle of the field, running a lot of cover 2 against this team, mixing in some cover 3 with some tighter shades, more of an inside shade in cover 3, which you don't really see in the NFL. But it's Bo Nix he's been bad, just plain and simple. And I know on my Instagram, I put out my QB rankings. I had him QB 26 out of the top 35, and people gave me a lot of shit for it. But I'm like, well, when teams get tape on you, like they have with every quarterback, CJ Stroud had an awesome rookie year, and now he looks worse than he ever has before in his football career in general. Yeah. When teams get film on you and you only do 1 or 2 things really well, they take away those 1 or 2 things you do really well, and you have to figure it out. That's what other quarterbacks who are at the top of the league do differently than the quarterbacks who stay in the middle. Like Kyler Murray, I love Kyler Murray. He struggles when he's under pressure, and he struggles hitting over the middle of the field. He's done a better job of that this year, but that hasn't been his forte. And he's finally figured it out 6 years into his career, right? Yeah. Bo Nix is going to have to figure that out if he wants to continue to succeed the level of success we saw from him last year, right? Yeah. So, if he doesn't improve over the next couple of weeks, I would say it's time to hit the panic button, because every draft analyst and their mother knew him going 12th overall was a reach. The Broncos needed a quarterback, sure, but a 24-year-old quarterback coming out of college who was fine in college and did some nice things on tape, but didn't make the NFL style throws. That's where he has struggled this year, essentially, on those outside perimeter throws. Quarterbacks who can hit the middle and the outsides do well. Jared Goff is one of those guys. He primarily hits passes over the middle, but can stretch it on the edges if he needs to. Yeah. He doesn't really bring that to the table as a quarterback. If the Broncos want to be back to a playoff contending team and a threat to win the AFC West, Bo Nix has to play better, and he needs to change his game. And I think that starts with his relationship with Sean Payton. Yeah. To touch on that, I mean, Sean Payton, this is the guy you kind of anointed as your heir, as you handpicked this guy. This is your man. Help him grow through this. I feel like a lot of people, layman fans, think of the sophomore slump as sort of a curse or a cliche. It's not that. It's a natural progression of what a quarterback goes through in the league. But it could be, a quarterback has to rise above that. He has to work with his coach to rise above that. And again, Sean Payton, this is your guy. Help him. You worked a miracle with Drew Brees. You brought out something that didn't exist for 4 years in San Diego when early in his career. You turned him into this Hall of Fame guy. You got to figure it out with Bo Nix. You got to do it. Yeah, and to that point, right, of Sean Payton having to figure it out, you have Cortland Sutton, who's one of the best jump ball receivers in the league, and one of the best outside threats in the league, especially vertically down the field. And we saw him do that in week 3. I believe he had a long touchdown on a deep crossing route on a play action play. I mean, Bo Nix threw a perfect ball. But you have to do more than that. You have a lot of cool, versatile pieces. Marvin Mims is a really good slot receiver. Troy Franklin has taken a great step as a year 2 wide receiver 2, who already has that connection with Bo Nix. When Evan Ingram's healthy, getting him more involved, using more running backs. Adam Troutman's been a really good tight end as well. I mean, you have the weapons there. They barely have used Pat Bryant, who they spent draft capital on to kind of compete for reps. They haven't really used him, and he's a good possession receiver and a jump ball, go up and get a guy. Use him in the red zone. Help Bo out. If Bo's a little bit inaccurate, fine, he'll go up and get it. He'll climb a ladder. You can't only have one guy on the field that does that in Cortland Sutton. You need multiple. So that's my Broncos rant. Now let's get into some players that we wanted to know through the first 3 weeks. We'll stick with the Broncos. We have 2 all-pro watch players. We picked 1 offensive player, 1 defensive player for each category. Who is your all-pro watch guy from the Broncos defense?
Yeah, that's got to be Nick Bonito. I mean, he just inked that extension, and he's making the most of it. He's got a 25% pass rush rate. That's a pressure rate. Sorry, that's incredible. Against Tennessee alone, he had a 42.9% win rate as an edge defender. That's incredible. I mean, I think that might speak a little bit to where Tennessee's offensive line is at right now. They could be battling with the Raiders for worst offensive line in the NFL. But I mean, he's just putting up numbers. He's got 3 sacks so far in the year. He's getting a sack a game. He's got 9 QB pressures. He's getting his money worth. He's getting his money's worth. He's been fun to watch play. I was a fan of him coming out of college, and it's cool to see him really begin to excel. He's gotten better every year, and he's this typical classic Broncos defensive stud.
Yeah, and he was one of my favorite players to watch last year, and he's been absolutely lighting it up to start this year. It's PFF grades pressures, or they mark pressures a little bit differently than, Next Gen Stats or ESPN. PFF has him credited with 17 pressures, which puts him at a 25.3% pressure rate. Like, that's just stupid. Like really good is 15 plus, elite is 18 plus, 25. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Before the show, I mentioned that this is like Bryce Huff was hitting these numbers when he was a situational pass rusher. Nick Bonito's playing the whole game.
Yeah. And he's doing that. That's just incredible. He's just there was a Twitter clip I saw. He timed one of the sacks he timed up against Joe Alt against the Chargers. He timed up Justin Herbert's hand flash. He didn't even watch the ball move. He saw Justin Herbert do this, because normally when Justin Herbert wants to get you jump, he'll be a little bit flappier with his arms. He did a quick one of these, and he was off as that ball was getting snapped. He didn't even look at the ball. Like, his jump time is fantastic. I love him. Going into my pick, Jackson Smith-Njigba has been unreal. He's second in the NFL in receiving yards at 323. Has completely elevated the Seahawks passing attack. I believe he's accounting for, let's look. So 323 receiving yards. And if we look at Seahawks total passing yards for this season, they are at 678 receiving yards. So that's, what is that? What did I say? 323? So he's accounting for, this is ridiculous, 678, 47% of their receiving yards. One player is accounting for that. That's absurd. And they've thrown 77 passes. He's been targeted on 28 of them. So that's
like when I'm trying to force feed my wide receiver in college football 26 so he wins the Heisman.
Exactly. Like, he's commanding over 35% of the targets. He's accounting for almost 50% of their receiving yards. Like, that is just ludicrous. And then if we want to just put that into context more, of receivers with at least 9 targets this season through 3 weeks, that means 3 targets per game. He has the most yards per route ran at 4.61. Elite is 3. There's only 3 players above 3 right now. One is a running back, Jalen Warren, who I'm so happy, because he was my dark horse pick for the Steelers. I'm so happy he's playing as well as he is, but 3.55 yards per route run. Second is Puka Nacua at 4.11.
Having an insane year.
He's doing awesome, and Jackson's been even more efficient than Puka, who's been awesome. And he's only got 10 yards less than Puka. Like, that's the crazy part, where it feels like the Rams are more pass-centric than the Seahawks are, and Jackson's been even better. So he's someone I'm really high on. He was another guy who was in Shane Waldron jail his rookie year and has taken that next step his second year removed from Shane Waldron. That's why we talked about Rome Odunze earlier. Like, pick him in the first round, second round of your fantasy drafts next year if you're for 2026. Talk to me about someone who, how Jackson Smith-Njigba flew under the radar early in his career. Tell me someone who's flying under the radar this year that you have.
Yeah, I really like what Garrett Bradbury's doing over on his new squad over in New England. He's been great in the pass protecting game this year. Overall, as a offensive lineman, as a center, he's ranked. He's being graded as a 75.5 by PFF, which is above average. Like that is a good solid ranking for an offensive lineman. Where he's excelling in the pass protection game, he's allowed 0 pressures this year. I mean, that's through 3 weeks. That's awesome. That's what Drake May needs that. I mean, he was running for his life last year. Like he needs an anchor in the middle of his offensive line, and that's what Garrett Bradbury is providing for him. I think he's doing a great job of elevating Gerard Wilson's play, their rookie guard, which again ultimately only going to help Drake May. I think this change of scenery has been good for him. He's still got, a little bit of holes in his game. His run block rate on PFF isn't great. It's 45.7, which is below average. But I don't know. This is a good start to the year for him. It's a good change of environment. He's helpful to his team in the sense that Drake May is going to thrive under a better offensive line, and he's a good start to that. I like what Garrett Bradbury has brought to the table up in New England.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note about him is, one, he's one of 2 offensive linemen in the entire NFL to allow 0 pressures with 75 pass block snaps. And also, he has been a below-average pass protector throughout his career. So this is new for him. This is this is worth the money that he's getting, when a lot of people were like, well, if you brought in Jared Wilson, who's naturally a center, why not put him at center and have Garrett be just a veteran swing guard or someone who can plug in if Jared's not the guy? Like he's done really well in pass pro. So great pickup there. My flying under the radar guy is Jordan Lewis. He's at that veteran stage of his career. Has never been good. Like he's always been like a solid average corner. He's never been good. He's starting to hit that now in Jacksonville. And out of, all the corners in the league, he is tied for the 4th most targeted. So, in leading the NFL is Andrew Phillips with 30 targets. Riley Moss is second with 28. Tyson Campbell, another Jaguars corner, is at 23. And then he's tied with Packers safety nickel hybrid Javon Bullard with 22. Mm-hmm. So through 3 games, targeted 22 times. That's over 7 times a game. On those targets, he's allowed 107 yards on only 14 receptions, so 7.6 yards per reception. 76 of those yards have been after the catch. So when he's not, right there, he's allowing a little bit more yards after catch than, anticipated. But here are the numbers that I love. 3 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and a 37.5 pass rating allowed. If a quarterback spikes the ball in the dirt, that's a pass rating of 39.6.
I love that stat.
Like, you have a better shot. If you're targeting Jordan Phillips, you might as well throw it in the ground. Like, he has been incredible in coverage. Now, run defense, that's another story. Like, he's just naturally not a good run defender. But the fact that he's doing what he's doing, and he's doing it as the starting nickel, he's played 141 snaps from the slot, and I think he's played, 196? So almost 80%, over 80% of his snaps have come from the slot. He's getting targeted that much, and he's performing that well as a nickel. Like, this is unprecedented for Jordan Lewis to do at this stage in his career. I mean, he's been awesome. And this Jaguars defense is playing better than it has in previous years. And I think a lot of that is they finally have an answer at nickel. Like, I thought it was going to be Antonio Johnson, but Jordan Lewis has stepped up in a big way.
Jordan Lewis was a name I was ready to forget too.
Mm-hmm.
He's had solid years, but never to this level. Just kind of a guy who I thought would coast off into the sunset, and he's reemerged now as a star.
Yeah, and with that, like, when we were doing our preseason preview and we were going through each team, and I looked at the Jaguars depth chart, and I was like, Jordan Lewis is still in the league. He's on the Jags. Like,
yeah.
And that's a great pickup for them. I mean, he's been awesome.
Yeah.
And for guys who haven't been awesome, we have a what the hell is going on section. Who's your what the hell is going on player?
My what the hell is going on player is Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, not even really just this year, but I think even back the past 2 years, he hasn't been this superstar, all encapsulating player that he was from 2018 to 2023. It seemed like last year he almost just kind of like how Jalen Hurts has been playing, like just be efficient, don't make mistakes, and we're gonna win the game. Granted they still won 15-2, but those issues of him not playing up to the level we're used to showed itself in the Super Bowl. I think a lot of it comes to the offensive line. I mean, they still really haven't solved it. They're still allowing more pressures, than they have most of the time in Patrick Mahomes' career. It's causing accuracy problems for Patrick Mahomes. He's off target rate is up to 22%, which is the worst in the league. And he doesn't he's not creating with the players he has. Rashee Rice is out. Who's the other? There's another wide receiver I'm missing.
Jalen Royals, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy was the one I was thinking of. Xavier Worthy's out. He's not creating with the cards that are dealt to him. We talked about that with Dak a little bit. He's going to have to step up and create with not the best weapons. Mahomes hasn't necessarily done that so far.
Yeah, and I'm crunching numbers really quick to help back you up on that inaccurate throw number. Mm-hmm. He's had 105 attempts with an adjusted completion rate. That's 73 quote unquote on target passes, right? So 73 or 105 minus 73, and then minus another 5 for pass breakups. Mm-hmm. He has 27 off target throws. Mm-hmm. When people hear 22%, the percent number is obviously alarming at 22%, but yeah, that means he's averaging 9 off target throws a game.
Yeah. Putting it like that is glaring.
Yeah, and he's still making big throws. He has Tyquan Thornton, who's been, deep ball aficionado this year. But there are some really bad throws that he's missing. I'll say 26 because one of those was the Travis Kelce throw, right? Where he dropped it and went through his hands and got picked off, right? Yep. That counts as another pass breakup. But so 26 off target throws, right? That's not getting it done when you're one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And, I'll always blame Matt Nagy. I won't blame it on Mahomes. But at one point, Mahomes has to figure it out, especially in the deep part of his game. The deep game is normally what he excels at. His deep passing this year, he has a 26.7 adjusted completion rate. That means over 70% of his deep balls are off target. And that's the part of the game that he thrived on early in his career. That's what made Mahomes who he is. Scrambling around the pocket and then saying, fuck it, Tyreek's down there somewhere and throwing a dart to him. That's the Mahomes we know, and it feels like that Mahomes is gone.
Yeah, that's
brutal.
Again, from just with the eye test, who Mahomes has been over the past few years, he's not Mahomes.
No, he's not. And it's a shame, but, we're here for that reason, right?
Yeah. He's in the what the hell is going on category of the week. For a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And on the flip side of the ball, for me, it's Terry and Arnold. I was really high on him coming out of the draft last year. I thought he had a good rookie year. I thought he just got beat, because he's an aggressive corner, so you're going to get beat over the top. And we saw that come to life in the divisional round against the Commanders. But this year, he's been, Jordan Lewis, 22 targets, Terry Arnold, 20 targets, and he's an outside corner, right? So they're taking shots on the outside when Terry's out there. On those 20 targets, he's allowed 13 receptions for 233 yards. That's 17.9 yards per catch. Out of all corners who've been targeted 15 times, that's the second worst in the league. The only two that are worse than him are DJ Turner and Caillou Blue Kelly. That's bad company. That's company you don't want to be in. And then if we look at passer rating allowed, he is allowed, let me see if I can find 121.5 passer rating. That's bad. And if we look at corners who have been targeted more than 15 times, here's some names. Christian Benford, who has been really good in the past, but is off to a bad start this year. Okay. Brandon Stevens, who we all hate. Kyu Blue Kelly, who we just mentioned. Who's another 17? Kyer Elam, who is a bust.
Oh God,
it's sad to call someone a
that
bust.
name hurts to hear.
Yeah, like someone who was like highly touted, like, yeah, this is the next guy, and it hasn't been anything but that. And then Marlon Humphrey, who, has been good, but this year has just been getting beat over and over again. And then a couple of other names, Kool-Aid McKinstry, he's at 13 targets, is even worse. Nick McLeod, who's a career backup, has been bad. Kamari Lassiter has taken a big step back this year.
Oh, God, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. Tariq Woolen is another one. Okay. Like, Tariq's up there, 137.2 on 12 targets. Like, that's like, there's some corners up here who have had good seasons and are just not performing up to standard. Terrion Arnold is in that category right now. And if things don't change soon for him and he can stop being overly aggressive, because that's his bread and butter, is being able to come downhill and cut down a receiver. Because even though he's allowed, over 200 yards, comparatively, he hasn't allowed that much yak. He's only allowed 34 yards after the catch. Like, so he's coming downhill and stopping guys when they catch the ball, or he's tackling them when he gets beat over the top, but he's not doing his job at stopping the ball from getting there in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to see more from him, because I thought he was a perfect fit for this defense. And it seems like it's kind of going the opposite direction to start his second season.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree.
Some general notes, and then we'll wrap up the show with two of our lightning rounds. General notes, Jackson Dart named the starter for week 4. What are your thoughts?
About time. It'll be tough going up against the Chargers, I think, for your first time out there. I mean, again, my top dog. But it's about time. And Brian Dable needs to save his job. So all eggs in this basket of Jackson Dart. Go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is more to save Brian Dable's job than him actually being ready to take this job. This is someone I think needed to sit the whole year. But with how Russell Wilson played in 2 out of the 3 games, I think he kind of had to make this move. Brian Callahan is giving up the play calling duties for the Titans. I'm sure Ohm is very excited about that. Shout out Ohm Brown. Check out his stuff and all the blogger stuff at thehouseenterprise.com.
One of the hardest bloggers.
Oh, man. Just to, buff up one of our writers.
A little bit of glaze here. It's fine.
His growth in writing, like, better than anyone I've seen just in writing in general. Like, just a very sound and very technically well thought out writer. Like, he's great. He's awesome. But Brian Callahan giving up the play calling duties, I think it was another one of those things, like, about time. Like, it's very tough for a head coach to come in and want to call plays in your first time being a head coach. And we've seen other head coaches fail at that consistently. So I think this is kind of the move. But the Titans have looked bad through the first 3 weeks in his second season. And then Isaiah Rodgers, the first player in PFF history to score a perfect 99.9 grade. Took 20 seasons for it to happen, but it finally did.
Just who we all thought it would be.
Yep, exactly. The random free agent pickup, who I did not think would contribute to this team, ended up contributing in a big way. Yeah. He allowed 1 reception on 3 targets for 2 yards. He had a pass breakup. He forced 2 fumbles, had 2 TFLs or stops, if you want to call them stops, depending on where he was at. And then he had 2 defensive touchdowns. 1 was a pick 6, and then 1 was a scoop and score on 1 of the fumbles he forced. Just an absolute dominant game. Top to bottom. I thought he was awesome. And then some sad injuries. James Conner to the IR. He's most likely done for the year.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah, I don't think they've fully specified what the exact injury is, but from what I saw, he definitely tore some ligaments in his ankle. It
was nothing good.
Yeah, he probably broke his ankle too, but it's sad. He's one of my favorite players. DeJuan Jones to IR. He is done for the year. Promising young tackle. He struggled, but he's made small improvements. But he's done for the year.
A guy I actually wanted the Jets to the draft a few years ago. I was high on him. I liked his size. He's very much an anchor.
Yeah, and he's a good mover for his size too. I'm shocked he fell to the 4th round, but with how he's kind of played, kind of matches the value. But he's still a fine tackle. So big loss for the Browns. Nolan Smith Jr. to IR for at least 4 weeks with a triceps injury. And Quincy Williams, linebacker for the Jets, also heading to IR. That's a tough one. But if anyone can fill in for him, Jamie Sherwood. I know he starts alongside him, but I like Jamie a lot, and I think he can kind of fit the bill.
I think I'd prefer him more in this role as opposed to him trying to fill the shoes that C.J. Mosley is leaving.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And then one of our lightning rounds, and we can kind of do this a little differently. You can kind of agree or disagree where I have these teams ranked, but number 10, Colts are sticking at this spot. 3-0, great start. You know, I don't think they've been, besides that Broncos game, I don't think they've been tested, but I think they're still, you know, a really solid foundational roster going into this, you know, next part of the season.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. No, I like that. I think where we are in the season right now, 10 is good. And if you had asked me that 3 weeks ago, I would have called it crazy.
For sure. Number 9, I have the Chiefs. And this is, you know, I try to take injuries into account. I think this is one when Rashee Rice comes back and Xavier Worthy comes back and they get some, you know, more experience on the defense. I think they're going to take that next step and play like a top 10 team instead of just kind of floundering around like they have been through the first 3 weeks. Number 8, I have the Rams. You know, still a really good team despite a bad second half against the Eagles. And I think if the Eagles played as aggressive as they did in the second half, that game would not have been close, but the Rams are still a good team.
I almost like them a little higher. I'm going to keep going on.
For sure. Number 7, for the first time this year, the Lions break into the top 10. I think after week 1, you know, I was kind of low on them. They rebounded, blew out the Bears, and then they had a really another good game against a very good Ravens team this week. You know, I actually should change this around a little bit now that I'm looking at it, but we'll get into that when we get into that. But Lions move up to 7, really, really solid from them. Number 6, I have the Buccaneers. They dropped another spot again, just with a close game to the Jets, but still a very good football team.
Yeah.
Number 5, I have the Packers. Even though they did lose to the Browns, I still think they're a top 5 team in the league and are very solid. Cracking into the top 4, the Chargers at 3-0.
Yeah.
Ran the gauntlet in the AFC West and beat every team in tough divisional matchups. They're just awesome and a really fun team to watch and should get another win this week against the Giants. Number 3, I probably should have moved them down, but I'm going to keep them this high solely because they did have a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball and were missing some key pieces, and that's the Ravens. And they went toe-to-toe with the Lions with injuries all over. It's just they couldn't stop the run, and I think if Nnamdi Madubuike is healthy, the Lions' run game is not nearly as successful as it was on a Monday night. Number 2, I have the Bills. Very good team. There's nothing more we can say about them that hasn't been said. Josh Allen is playing lights out. And number 1, if not for a fantastic comeback, we have the Philadelphia Eagles once again. And if they tap into what they did in the second half and do that even more throughout the season, it's going to be very tough for a team to knock them out in the number 1 spot.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that you don't have the Bills number 1. I think I would flip-flop the Rams and Lions. I just think the Rams have been more consistently good.
That's valid.
Throughout the season. Lions really looked like a shell of themselves in week 1. Obviously, have come back to the Lions we've known over the past couple of years. But the Rams have just looked very, very good for 3 games. And I think I don't know where I throw them in. Maybe I take the Chiefs out. But I feel like the 49ers, considering the injury luck they've had, in spite of all that being 3-0, I think they are deserving of a spot here.
Yeah, I think if they win again this upcoming week and the Chiefs, you know, end up losing to the Ravens, or that ends up being a really close game and the Chiefs look, you know, as bad as they did week 1 and 2, I think that's more than fair to insert the 49ers in over the Chiefs. But I think the 49ers would be 11 or 12 if I did a full list at this point. So great call out there. And then to wrap up the show, lightning round, Clubfoot and I are going to go game by game, just pick our winner. We can agree, we can disagree, doesn't matter. we're just going to run through. We have a couple of highlights on what these games mean and, what they're not standing for, but where they're at. Seahawks at the Cardinals, Thursday Night Football, and it's the Cardinals' debut of the rivalry jerseys. I think this is the first game with a rivalry jersey being showcased, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is.
Who do you got in this one?
No offense to you. I like the Seahawks here. We just went all on about their offense and how good JSN has been. I still have a soft spot for Sam Darnold. I think the Cardinals, I don't want to say 2-0 is a fluke, but I think they definitely played above where I think a lot of people thought they were going to be, and maybe now they're coming back down to earth. I just have the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going to go Seahawks as well, which breaks my heart, but Cardinals offense has been anything but good, and the Seahawks offense has been the opposite. They've been anything but bad. They've been great, and I don't think this pass rush is going to threaten Sam Darnold at all. Vikings at the Steelers.
Yeah, I think the Brian Flores defense is going to be too much for Aaron Rodgers. He's looking older and older and slower and slower. I got the Vikings here, just in spite of Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm going to go Vikings here as well. I mean, we saw what they did against the Bengals. Granted, it was against Jake Browning, but even Jake Browning has never looked that bad in his career. And now you're going against 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who can no longer move well in the pocket, and he's going to have pressure coming at him from all different angles. I'll take the Vikings as well. Commanders at the Falcons.
Yeah, this is intriguing. I don't think it could possibly get any worse for the Falcons. I know there's some rumblings about, is Michael Penix still going to be the starter? I don't know. We still got this $90 million backup. What do we do? Again, I don't think they could have a worse possible game than last week. I still think the Commanders win this game. I'm
going to go Falcons here, and just because Michael Penix just came off the worst game of his career, and he's going to bounce back, and they're moving Zach Robinson from the booth down to the field, and I think that's to help Michael Penix kind of ground himself and get collected. And the Falcons pass rush 2 weeks ago looked great. I think you're going to come back and look great again against the Commanders. Saints at the Bills. I don't think we have to elaborate too much. Bills easily. Browns at the Lions. This one's interesting.
Yeah, this is a little more intriguing after how good I wouldn't say how good they looked, but how the Browns were able to stop the Packers offense last week. The Browns defense is really hot right now, and the Lions offense is really coming into its own. I'm still going to take the Lions, but I think it's going to be a better game than what it looked like 3 weeks ago.
If they can somehow hold the Lions to less than 17 points, then I'll say the Browns. But I don't think, especially after week one and how they've rebounded from that Packers game, I'm going Lions here. I don't think that's going to change. This one's fun. The 0-3 Bowl, Titans at the Texans. What do you got?
I think it has to be the Texans. I mean, if there's any chance that they are even in play for a wild card at this point, like they have to start now. I mean, the Jacksonville is much better than we thought. The Colts are 3-0. Like if it's going to happen, it's got to happen now. And the Titans don't look like a well put together team. Texans.
Yeah, I'll go Texans as well, but I think the wild card in this game is going to be the change of play calling for the Titans. This one's going to be a lot closer than people expect. And I think it's going to be another low scoring game. I think it's going to be like 20-17 or something like that.
Okay.
Panthers at the Patriots.
The Panthers are a little feisty. I don't know. I love Tet. I'm a big fan of Tet McMillan, and they slapped the dog shit out of the Falcons last week. I don't really know the direction the Patriots are going in. I think they're a little underwhelming to this point. Maybe I'm going to be a hater. I'm going to take the Panthers.
Ooh, I like that. And if Bryce Young doesn't make dumb turnovers like he did through the first 2 weeks this year, I think they have a shot. With that, the Pats had 5 turnovers and barely lost to the Steelers. I'm going to take the Pats in this one, that they're going to change course and redirect. I think Ramondre Stevenson's on the hot seat per some of Mike Vrabel's comments. I think they want to get Travion Henderson and invested more in the team. Not invested, but utilized more.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the difference maker.
Okay.
Chargers at the Giants. Jackson starts first start in the NFL. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is it's a tough. I mean, Daniel Jones' first start, everybody thought the Buccaneers were going to wax him, and he came up there and shocked the world and kind of had a highlight had a Daniel Jones highlight that game and won. I still just think the Chargers are too good. I'm going to take Jim Harbaugh and the boys.
Yeah, I'll take the Chargers in this one too. Herbert, this defense, Harbaugh, everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the game of the week.
Yeah.
Eagles at the Bucks.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
Yeah, I like the Bucks are kind of the Eagles kryptonite. Like they have kind of owned the Eagles over the past few years. I like the Bucks. I don't know. Baker Mayfield is finding a way to have a vendetta against random people every game, and I'm sure he'll find someone to be pissed at and want to make a fourth quarter comeback against this time. I like the Bucks.
If it's me, or if I was Baker Mayfield, I'd be going at Jalen Carter right away, kind of like Dak did. Be like, don't spit on me, motherfucker.
Get him riled up. Yeah.
Get him riled up. I like the Bucks in this one too, just because the first 10 quarters of the Eagles season, if they play like that, I think the Bucks win by 2 possessions in this game.
Yeah.
But with Mike Evans out, Chris Godwin may not be back. They are missing some pieces, but Emeka Egbuka's a dog. So I think the Bucks will win.
Yeah.
This one's fun. Colts at the Rams.
Yeah, I think I talked a lot about the Colts today. I love what they're doing. I think they're just running into a better coached team here in the Rams. And like I said, they looked good for 3 games this year. It just happened to be a bad second half against the Eagles. I'm just going to go veteran coach, veteran quarterback. I'm taking Rams here.
I think this is a really good matchup. Really good offensive line going against a really good pass rush. Really good and well-oiled machine offense going against a sound defense. Rams offense versus Colts defense. I am going to go the Rams here. I think they give the Colts their first loss of the season. Jags at the 49ers.
Yeah, is this the Mac Jones revenge game?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I don't know.
If he plays, if Brock Purdy's not healthy.
True. I don't know. I think there's something different about the Jags this year. I don't know. Feels different. I think Liam Cohen's really – they might have found a guy who – again, it's been 3 games. I don't want to overreact. It seems like they found a guy who can stick. I'm going to take the Jags. I think they continue to have a good start and they roll. And, with the injuries are going to have to catch up to the 49ers at some point. And I think it might be this week. Agreed.
And I think if they had Nick Bosa, this offensive line would be toast. But with him gone, they still have some good edge rushers behind him. But I think the Jags will end up pulling out this win, giving the 49ers their first loss of the season. And I think Trevor Lawrence, believe it or not, has not completed a pass over 20-plus yards this year. I think this is the game he does it.
Okay.
High bill game, but record-wise would not show it. Ravens at the Chiefs, the 1-2 bowl.
Yeah, would you have thought one of these teams would be 1-3 at the end of this game? Granted, they don't tie. Yeah, kind of incredible here.
Tie? Can we pick a tie?
You could. I'm not. I want to go Ravens. I just don't think the Chiefs look good. I mean, that Giants game, they won. I don't know. I wasn't impressed after beating the Giants by 13. I wasn't impressed. I'm gonna take the Ravens. Ravens offense has been firing this year. Granted, again, they have some injury issues, but Lamar Jackson looks awesome. I want to see Derrick Henry. He had a great first game. He's kind of been not as effective the last 2 games. I wonder if he gets going this game. And I still think even with the injuries on defense, the Ravens take advantage of the Chiefs. Not so great offensive line. I think the Ravens take it.
Got it. I'm gonna go Chiefs. And if Justin Madubuike is healthy, which it doesn't seem like he's going to be for this game, if Justin Madubuike plays, I would say the Ravens. But the fact that there's doubt and we're in Wednesday and there's doubt that he's going to play, I'm going to go with the Chiefs for this one. I know one player doesn't make a difference, but that defense is completely different without him there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially with Roquan, Marlon Humphrey, and just the pass rush in general has not been great to start the season. I think the Chiefs take this win. This is a fun, sneaky matchup. Bears at the Raiders.
Yeah, this could be another one of those 40-30 games, honestly. I think Geno Smith stinks. That just might be my take. I don't know.
That's fine. You're allowed to have that take.
I think the Bears ride the momentum. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears in this one. Raiders offensive line, like we talked about, is garbage. Bears pass rush is not garbage. Their defense is very good. Give me the Bears. Sunday Night Football, Packers at the Cowboys.
This feels like a Jerry Jones makes a blood sacrifice to win this game. He just wants to be right so bad about this Micah Parsons situation. And I something in my head is telling me that, like, of course Jerry Jones is going to win this game. In my gut, I feel the Cowboys. The Packers are so much better on every level. I'm going to take the Packers. I mean, the Cowboys.
You know what? I don't hate that. Here's what I will say. The last time the Packers played the Cowboys, they blew them the fuck out that
was that playoff
in
game,
Jerry
right?
World. Yeah, in Jerry World.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Packers. Micah Parsons going to break the sack and pressure rate record and turnover record. Like he's going to go off, especially against Tyler Guyton is hurt. He's playing through injury. Terrence Steele sucks. He's going to feast upon anybody he lines up against. Monday Night Football, the 0-3 Bowl 2.0, Jets at the Dolphins.
Yeah, gross. I got to take the Jets. I got to ride with them here. I mean, I do think they are better than the Dolphins. I think they have a more cohesive locker room than the Dolphins. I think they want to play for Aaron Glenn. Tua is encroaching on pre-LASIK surgery Jameis Winston territory with his interceptions. And the Jets have a lot of holes, but they do have they have names on defense who can make plays, and I think they'll take advantage of the mistakes Tua has been making in this early portion of the season. And I don't know. I just got to ride with the Jets. Give me Jets.
Yeah, I'll take the Jets as well. I think this is when they get the win. As I stated earlier in the show, this is a regime on the rise and another regime on the downward turn. So give me the Jets. I think this one's going to be easy for the last one. Monday Night Football, Bengals at the Broncos. Who do you got?
I think it has to be the Broncos. I think this is an early season must win for them. The Bengals looked awful last week. I mean, Jake Browning, to a lot of people, was one of those better backups in the league. He looked awful. Brian Flores took crazy advantage of him. And the Broncos aren't. I mean, they're a similar caliber defense. I think they take it to the Bengals. I think, unfortunately, the Bengals might be screwed. No Joe Burrow. Give me the Broncos.
Yeah, the one thing I will say the Bengals have going for them, or at least Jake Browning does, this defense plays very similarly to how the Vikings do in terms of exotic zone blitzes and pressure packages and pressure paths. Broncos play very similarly to that, so I think he's not going to kind of be not actually scrambling in the pocket, but scrambling in his brain on where pressure's coming from and who's covering who. So I think that'll give him a little bit of a better edge for this game, but I still think the Broncos end up 2-2 and the Bengals end up 2-2 after this game. Broncos by 10 in their midnight blues. That's going to be fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because the Bengals, which I don't know why they didn't wear the orange pants last week. I thought that would look great against the Vikings, purple on white. Now they get it right. Bengals wear the orange. Broncos wear the midnight blue jerseys. It's going to look so clean.
Yeah, what a color game. Probably might be the best color game of the week.
I will say the Broncos uniforms have aged beautifully. Like I remember they got a lot of shit, but seeing them on the field and how they mismatch, like when they do the triple color mismatch, they do the blue helmet, orange jersey, white pants. Like that is a great look.
I look at the Broncos like they're a classic to me at this point.
Absolutely. So with that, we're at the end of the show. Clubfoot, any last words?
Go Jets. I don't know. Week 3 is always fun because I feel like this is where you start to learn who teams actually are. And now we kind of take this information and go with it the rest of the season. We have a better idea. We have somewhat of an outlook, and it's exciting. I'm excited.
Sure. Yeah. Love to hear that, man. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the show and subbing
Appreciate
in.
it anytime. Love hopping on.
Yeah, we'll have you on in the future for sure, whether it's, just me again or it's the 3 of us or we bring in Ohm or someone else. You can catch out all the House Enterprise content at the socials. If you're watching, they're on the ticker below. But if you aren't watching and you're listening at home, house-enterprise.com. We're on X/Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. We're everywhere, mainly at House Enterprise. Just look it up on any of the socials. You will find us. You can find Clubfoot and I on all the socials as well. Feel free to give feedback or, just banter back and forth with us as we love to do. But as always, my name's Jordan. This is ClubFootJim. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time.